Measuring time. Measuring time. How do we measure time? Seconds, minutes, hours. We use these measurements of time to help us stay on time. Think about where you see clocks. They're on wristwatches, on classroom walls, in train stations, and on cell phones. People check the time many times a day. People think about the time all day long. You want to get to school on time. Your parents want you to go to bed on time. Everyone has a schedule. That's why you see clocks all around. A clock divides the day into equal parts. Each hour has 60 minutes. Every minute has 60 seconds. We use hours and minutes to organize our schedules every day. People use clocks all day long. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Some kids have a soccer game every Saturday. Some have a piano lesson. Some kids have a soccer game every Saturday. Some have a piano lesson every Tuesday. How does your family keep track of activities like these? Many families write everything down on a monthly calendar. Calendars help us to track days, weeks, and months. They help us organize our plans. Some families hang a 12-month calendar in the kitchen. They mark everybody's activities and important events on it. If you flip through a calendar, you will see all 12 months of the year. A month has between 28 and 31 days. Every month has special celebrations or holidays. Look through a calendar to find out what is coming up next. Calendars are a fun and helpful way to plan your days, weeks, and months. You can look through a calendar and keep track of the time until your favorite holiday. A year is a long time, but how long is it? Well, it depends on how you measure the time. A year is 365 days, but it's also 52 weeks. And don't forget about months. How many months make up a year? 12. Just as minutes make up an hour, seasons make up a year. The change from one season to the next happens every 3 months, giving us 4 seasons to enjoy every year. In many places, the weather changes as the season does. It doesn't change immediately, but it changes a little every day. In the spring, buds appear on trees and flowers blossom. The summer brings warmer weather and summer vacation. In autumn, the air turns cooler in many places. Green leaves turn red, orange, and yellow, and then fall off the trees. Next up is winter, and lots of snow may fall if you're in the northern United States. And snow means sledding. As the seasons change, they remind us that time is passing too. Soon another year will begin, and that means more days, weeks, months, and seasons to enjoy.
The Great Big Gigantic Turnip, a Russian folktale. The Great Big Gigantic Turnip, a Russian folktale. What is the biggest vegetable you have seen? How would you pick a giant vegetable? There was once an old man who planted a turnip. He dug a hole deep into the ground and gently placed the tiny seed inside. May this small seed sprout and grow a turnip big enough for my whole family to feast upon, he said, as he covered the seed with dirt. Then he gave the plant some water and went home. The next day, he returned to the garden. He noticed that the seed had grown. The turnip plant came up to his knees. The old man smiled. He gave it water and sang it his favorite songs. Each day the turnip grew bigger and bigger. Soon the plant was higher than the man's waist. Then it came up to his nose. The old man and his family couldn't believe they had grown such a marvelous plant. To them, it was more wonderful than the prettiest roses in full bloom. Soon the turnip was bigger than the man himself. He decided it was time to pull. Soon the turnip was bigger than the man himself. He decided it was time to pull it up. What a splendid stew this beauty will make, he thought. He pulled at the turnip, but it did not come up. So he yanked and tugged and pulled some more, but the turnip did not budge. The man called his wife. "Dear wife, please come and assist me in pulling up this turnip so that we can make a fine stew." "With pleasure," said his wife, smacking her lips. She held on to her husband as he grabbed the top of the turnip. Together they pulled and tugged and yanked and pulled some more. But no matter how hard they both tried, they could not pull up the gigantic turnip. Their son came out of the house. "My sturdy son," called the woman, "please come and help us pull up this turnip." "I certainly will," said the boy. He held on to his mother, who held on to her husband, and together they pulled and tugged and yanked and pulled some more. But no matter how hard they all tried, they could not pull up the gigantic turnip. Then the boy saw his sister walking by. "Strong sister, please come and help pull up this turnip," he cried. So the girl ran over and grabbed. Then the boy saw his sister walking by. "Strong sister, please come and help pull up this turnip," he cried. So the girl ran over and grasped her brother, who held on to his mother, who held on to her husband. Together they pulled and tugged and yanked and pulled some more. But no matter how hard they all tried, they could not pull up the gigantic turnip. Then the girl saw her dog near the fence. "Powerful Pooch," she cried, "come and help us pull up this turnip." The dog ran over and took hold of the girl's dress in its mouth. And together, everyone pulled and tugged and yanked and pulled some more. But no matter how hard they all tried, they could not pull up the gigantic turnip. Then the dog saw a cat in a tree. "Fierce feline," he barked, "come and help us pull up this turnip." The cat meowed and ran over and took hold of the dog. Together, everyone pulled and yanked and tugged and pulled some more. But no matter how hard they all tried, they still could not pull up the gigantic turnip. Then the cat spied a little mouse under a cabbage plant. "Mighty Mouse, come and help us pull up this turnip," the cat meowed. "That mouse is not mighty," they all cried, "and she certainly will not be able to help us pull up the turnip." But the mouse ran over and held on to the cat, and together everyone pulled and tugged and yanked and pulled some more. Then, to everyone's amazement, The turnip flew out of the ground so fast that the man, the woman, the boy, the girl, the dog, the cat, and the mouse all fell backwards right on top of each other. The man looked at the huge turnip and turned to the others. "Please help me eat this gigantic turnip," he cried. So they each held on to a part of the turnip and walked it home. The stew was as delicious as the man had said it would be, and they all had 3 helpings, even the tiny mouse.
The Foolish, Timid Rabbit. The Foolish, Timid Rabbit. A tale from India. What silly mistakes have characters made in stories that you know? There once was a timid rabbit. One day, the rabbit was sitting under a palm tree. As he sat there, resting, he suddenly wondered, what would happen if the earth were to break up into little pieces? Whatever would become of him? Just then, a monkey dropped a big coconut from the tree. The falling coconut landed with a bang. The foolish, timid rabbit jumped up. "Oh my!" he cried. "It is happening! The earth is breaking up!" He quickly ran away from his spot under the tree. He didn't even look back to see what had caused the loud noise. As the foolish, timid rabbit ran, he met other rabbits. He shouted, "Run! The earth is breaking up!" "Do not tell us a tale," said the other rabbits. "It is not a tale," shouted the little rabbit. "I heard it happen myself." The others decided it must be true. Soon all the rabbits were running as fast as they could. Next, the rabbits met a deer. "Hurry! The earth is breaking up!" they exclaimed. The deer began to run behind the rabbits. Soon, the deer saw a fox. "Get moving! The earth is breaking up!" yelled the deer. So the fox ran behind the rabbits and the deer. Next, the fox saw a great big elephant. "Make haste! The earth is breaking up!" she called to the elephant. The ground shook as the enormous elephant ran behind the rabbits, the deer, and the fox. At last, the wise King Lion saw all the animals running. He decided to find out why they were running. The lion roared 3 times. The animals stopped in their tracks. "Why are you all running so fast?" the lion asked. The animals told him, "The earth is breaking up." "But who saw the earth breaking up?" the lion asked the animals. "I didn't see it," the elephant said. "The fox told me about it." "I didn't see it," the fox said. "The deer told me about it." The deer shook his head and pointed to the rabbits. And so eventually, the King Lion looked at the foolish, timid rabbit. "Did you see the earth break up?" asked the lion. "Well, not exactly," said the foolish, timid rabbit. "I was sitting under a tree, and I wondered what would happen if the earth broke up into little pieces. Then I heard a very loud noise. I knew the earth was breaking up." "We must go back to the tree and see what is going on," the lion said. "Hop onto my back." The rabbit hopped onto the lion's back and they ran to the tree. The other animals waited. When the lion and the rabbit reached the tree, they saw a coconut underneath. The lion pointed to the coconut. "Foolish rabbit," he said. "The sound you heard was a coconut falling." "Then the earth is not breaking up?" asked the foolish, timid rabbit. The lion shook his head and smiled. Then the lion ran with the rabbit on his back and told the other animals what happened. They were very happy the earth was not breaking up. "Lion, you are our hero," the animals cheered. And the foolish, timid rabbit cheered loudest of all.
Pioneers. Pioneers. Who were the pioneers? How did they live? Long ago, many Americans traveled west in hopes of finding land to settle and farm. They were called pioneers. They packed belongings into covered wagons and spent months on the journey. Today, we move from place to place much more quickly than people did in the past. We can drive our cars across the United States in 1 week. On a plane, we can get there in a few hours. Over a century ago, the trip to the grass-covered prairie was difficult. Paved roads didn't exist. Covered wagons had to follow rough paths and cross over water. Oxen pulled the heavy wagons, which were also filled with food and supplies. Oxen were strong, but they were slow. A team of oxen could pull a wagon about 15 miles a day. Today, a car can do that in 15 minutes. When the long journey was over and the pioneers had reached the prairie, they faced a new challenge. They had to make new homes. Many pioneers lived on farms. Their houses were very different from our houses today. There were few trees, so there was not much wood for building houses. Some people built houses from logs that were brought to the prairie by railroads. Other people built houses from stones or even dirt. A house made from blocks of dirt was cool in the summer and warm in the winter. There was one problem with a house made of dirt, though. When rain fell, the dirt roof got wet. The wet roof sometimes fell onto the people inside the house. The early pioneers had no electricity. Instead of turning on a light, people lit candles and oil lamps at night. They cooked over a fire in the kitchen or outdoors. There were many chores to do. Children helped with cooking and cleaning. Kids were very busy at home, but they still had fun. What did pioneer families do for entertainment? They sang songs together. They played with their pets, too, just as families do today. Pioneer children did not go to school in a big building. Instead, kids went to a school with just one room. In this one-room schoolhouse, one teacher taught students from many different grades. The youngest children sat in smaller desks at the front of the classroom. The older children sat in larger desks in the back of the room. The teacher taught one level at a time and prepared many different lessons for every day. Younger students learned a lot by hearing the lessons for older students. The supplies that students used at school were very different than those used today. Students did not use computers or calculators. Those things would not be invented until far in the future. Often, students did not even use paper. Instead, they wrote on slate with slate pencils. These were like using small blackboards and chalk or dry erase boards. Even though one-room schools were very different than ours, the students had some things in common with kids today. They learned to read and write. They had fun at recess. What did the pioneers who lived on the prairie eat? They had no supermarkets as people have in the present. Instead, they raised most of their food themselves. Many pioneers grew corn, wheat, potatoes, and vegetables such as squash and beans. They collected eggs from their chickens and milk from their cows. They kept pigs and sheep, too. Their meals came from all these things. For breakfast, a pioneer family might eat cornbread, fried potatoes, and eggs. For lunch, they might eat more potatoes, soup, and ham. For dinner, they might eat chicken and biscuits with beans. Would you get tired of eating the same kinds of food over and over? Pioneers felt the same way. So some pioneers kept beehives, and they put the honey that the bees made on their food. Other settlers grew apple trees and pear trees from seeds they brought to the prairie with them. A fresh apple or pear made a fine end to a meal. That was true then, and it is still true now. Do you think you would like to have been a pioneer?
The Little Red Hen, a traditional folk tale. How does corn grow? What foods can you make using corn? Once upon a time, a little red hen lived with a pig, a duck, and a cat in a cozy house. The little red hen was a very busy little hen. It was her responsibility to keep the garden free of weeds. One day, the little red hen discovered some kernels of corn in the yard. "Hola! Who will plant this corn?" asked the little red hen. "Not I," grunted the pig from his muddy patch in the garden. "Not I," quacked the duck from her pond. "Not I," purred the cat from his usual place in the sun. So the little red hen decided she would plant the corn all by herself, and she did. The long hot summer passed. The corn grew and grew and grew. First it sprouted small green stalks. They grew into enormous green stalks. Then ears of corn appeared on the tall stalks. They ripened in the sun until they were nice and plump. Finally, the corn was ready to pick. The pig, the duck, and the cat were resting in the sun. "Who will help me pick the corn?" called the little red hen. "Not I," grunted the pig. "Not I," quacked the duck. "Not I," purred the cat. "Very well, then. I will pick it myself," said the little red hen. Carefully she picked the ears of corn and cut all the kernels of corn from the cobs. The little red hen laid the kernels of corn in the sun to dry. Then she mixed water and a special powder called lime. She boiled the dried corn in this mix and rinsed it in fresh, cold water. Now the little red hen was ready to grind her corn for tortilla dough. "Who will help me grind the corn?" she asked. "Not I," grunted the pig. "Not I," quacked the duck. "Not I," purred the cat. So the little red hen took the corn to the mill all by herself. She asked the miller if he would please grind the corn into nutritious corn flour. When the miller delivered a bag of flour, it was time for the little red hen to make her tortilla dough. The pig, the duck, and the cat were all dozing in the sun, so the little red hen set to work. She went into her neat little kitchen. The little red hen added some water to the flour to make dough. She kneaded her dough and made it into little balls. Then she rolled each ball out into a thin circle. Now the little red hen was ready to cook her delicious tortillas. Soon the wonderful smell of freshly cooked tortillas filled the little red hen's house and floated out to the yard. When the little red hen added the spicy meat filling, the pig, the duck, and the cat simply could not wait for one more second. They hurried into the house to find out what that delicious smell could possibly be. "Who is going to help me eat these beautiful tortillas?" asked the little red hen. "I will," grunted the pig. "I will," quacked the duck. Soon the wonderful smell of freshly cooked tortillas filled the little red hen's house and floated out to the yard. When the little red hen added the spicy meat filling, the pig, the duck, and the cat simply could not wait for one more second. They hurried into the house to find out what that delicious smell could possibly be. "Who is going to help me eat these beautiful tortillas?" asked the little red hen. "I will," grunted the pig. "I will," quacked the duck. "I will," purred the cat. "Oh, really?" said the little red hen. "I planted the kernels. I picked and dried the corn. I took it to the mill to be made into flour, and I made the tortillas all by myself. And I will eat them all by myself." The pig, the duck, and the cat all watched as the little red hen ate the first tortilla. She was so delighted with it that she gobbled up the rest, right down to the very last crumb.
The Elephant's Child. The Elephant's Child, based on a story by Rudyard Kipling. What unusual features do elephants have? How do they use these features? Long ago, elephants didn't have the same appearance. They didn't have trunks, only big stumpy noses that were no good at picking things up. But then, an elephant's child came into the world, not with a trunk, but with many questions. He wanted to know about everything. The elephant's child asked his aunt, the ostrich, why her tail feathers grew the way they did. He asked his very tall uncle, the giraffe, what made the spots on his skin. The elephant's curiosity drove his animal family crazy. They were tired of his questions. On a day of celebration, with all his neighbors around, the elephant's child asked a new question. What does the crocodile eat for dinner? Everyone turned to him and yelled, "Hush!" He couldn't get anyone to answer his question. The curious little elephant found his friend Cola Bird and told him that his family hushed him up when he asked what the crocodile ate for dinner. But she didn't know the answer to his question. "Go to the riverbank and find out," she suggested. The elephant's child was determined to get an answer. The next day, he packed 100 pounds of bananas and 17 melons. He told his family, "I am going to the great green river to find out what the crocodile has for dinner." He walked away eating one of his melons. As he ate, he had to let the rinds fall because he had no way to pick them up. When the elephant's child got to the river, he didn't know what to look for because he had never seen a crocodile. He came upon a snake resting on a rock and asked, "Have you seen a crocodile in these parts?" The snake just shook its head. But the elephant's child refused to give up and asked the next animal he saw. This animal winked at him and whispered, "Come here, little one, for I am the crocodile." The elephant's child was delighted. The elephant's child felt such relief that he had found a real crocodile. But just as he asked his new The elephant's child felt such relief that he had found a real crocodile. But just as he asked his new friend what he ate for dinner, the crocodile caught him by the nose and started tugging. "I think today I will eat the elephant's child for dinner," the crocodile hissed through his sharp teeth. "Let go! You are hurting me," said the elephant's child as he realized his predicament. The snake slithered over to help the elephant's child. Together they pulled away from the crocodile until the elephant's child's nose had stretched way out. Finally, the crocodile let go with a loud pop. The elephant's child landed, rubbing his very sore nose. "Thank you," he said to the snake as he began to wrap his long nose with banana leaves. "What are you doing that for?" wondered the snake out loud. "I need this big nose to shrink. I don't want to change my face. Besides, what is a long nose good for?" asked the elephant's child. The snake shook his head again as he slithered away, saying, "Some folks just don't know what's good for them." The banana leaves did not help elephant's child's nose to become short again. As he sat and sadly rubbed his new long nose, he heard a fly buzz around his head and saw it land on his shoulder. Before he knew it, the elephant's child swatted the fly with the end of his nose. That's when it hit him. Maybe his nose was good for something after all. The elephant's child raced home to his family. Of course, he stopped to pick fruit, to cool off with water, and to shoo away a few more bugs, all using his new nose. He even picked up the melon rinds he had left behind. When he finally got home, he couldn't wait to show his family what his nose could do. At first, they couldn't believe their ears. But then he showed them all of the amazing things a trunk could do. Now the elephants had a question for the elephant's child. How can we get new long noses? Soon enough, they were all off to meet the crocodile by the river to get their own noses pulled. Today, all elephants have the elephant's child to thank for their most famous and useful feature, the trunk.
The new kid. Have you ever had a friend help you when you felt... I'm Lucy, George squawked loudly again. Jade kept her promise the next day. My dad and I took George to school the next day. Say hello to George, class, Mr. Walker said. Hello, George, everybody called. Hello, George, George squawked. Everybody laughed. George is a hippopotamus, Jade shouted. George is a hippopotamus, George squawked. Everybody clapped. After that, there was an awkward silence because George stopped talking, which was fine with me. I was still afraid he might say something outrageous. Then some of the other kids began talking to me. They asked if I wanted to play with them at recess. Dad took his time getting George's cage ready, and eventually they were leaving, and I began to relax. Good job, George, Mr. Walker called. Good job, George, everyone shouted. Good job, George, George squawked. Thanks for everything, Jade, I said. Thanks for helping me. Jade said, that's what friends are for. I was so happy. The first day at my new school was turning out to be one of the best days ever.
Animals working together. How does being in a group help animals? How do they work together? Many animals depend on others of their kind in order to survive. These animals live in groups that help each other. Gorillas live together in groups called troops. Each troop has about 9 to 20 animals in it. The head of the troop is an older, dominant male called a silverback. Gorillas stay together to find food. They also help each other stay clean by picking tiny insects out of each other's fur. A troop also stays together for protection. They communicate with their voices. They can't talk, but they make different sounds. A chuckling sound may mean, let's play. But if a gorilla beats its chest and makes a hooting noise, it is a warning. This tells other gorilla groups not to get too close. African wild dogs are another kind of animal that help each other. African wild dogs are another kind of animal that help each other. They live in groups called packs. There are between 6 and 20 dogs in each pack. These endangered animals find food together. The dogs hunt at dawn and at dusk. Running together, they make high, excited squeaks to tell each other where to find the rodents, antelopes, wildebeests, and other animals they hunt. They even move their big ears to point out which direction to go in. There are many aspects of their behavior that show that they are working as a group. The pack works together to care for the young dogs. If youngsters are present at a kill, they are allowed to eat first. Because mother wild dogs can give birth to up to 20 pups, feeding the young is a big job. All of the adult dogs need to hunt so that the pack has enough to eat. The adult dogs watch over each other's young too. They protect the little dogs from predators that might try to eat them. The adult male dogs babysit the pups in their dens. Emperor penguins live in big groups that help each other. These penguins live in Antarctica. Emperor penguins live in big groups that help each other. These penguins live in Antarctica. Because it is very cold in Antarctica, the penguins huddle together to stay warm. This is beneficial to all the penguins. They take turns moving to the protected warm center of the group. After a penguin warms up a little, it moves back to the outside of the group. Then penguins on the outside can come into the middle. Mother and father emperor penguins help each other too. When a mother emperor penguin lays an egg, she leaves it with the father. Then the mother travels far away to find food. Meanwhile, the father penguin gently balances the egg on its feet and covers it with its warm feathers. In 2 months, the egg will hatch. That is when the mother returns with fish to feed the new chick. Now it is the father's turn to go look for food. Dolphins help each other in many ways. These small whales travel together in groups called pods. Small pods have at least 5 dolphins, and large pods can have hundreds of dolphins. The dolphins in the pod help each other catch fish. The pod surrounds a group of fish. The dolphins swim around the fish very quickly, so that the tasty fish are packed together like a ball. Then the dolphins swim through the ball of fish, eating as they go. They do this by instinct. To communicate, dolphins make high-pitched whistles and squeaks. They make these noises to find each other and to warn each other when danger is near. Dolphins are very helpful to members of their pod that become hurt or sick. If a dolphin is attacked by another animal, such as a shark, the rest of the dolphins in the pod will stay near the hurt member. They may even try to fight back.
Wild animal families. Animals have families just like people. It is a cold winter day in Antarctica. A mother emperor penguin has just laid her egg. Now thirsty and hot, a group of elephants walk to a water hole. 3 mothers sit and watch their youngsters run, climb, and chase one another. Another mother sits holding her baby who is too young to play. Are these youngsters children at a playground? No. They are young wild gorillas romping in a mountain forest. The leader of this gorilla family is a male gorilla called a silverback. Silverbacks get their name because the hair on their backs turns a silver gray as they get older. The silverback protects his family from other silverbacks or people. If he is seen pounding his chest and roaring, he is angry. What do gorillas do all day? When they wake up in the morning, they search for food. In the afternoon, the older gorillas nap while the young ones play. Later, they look for more food. Then, they groom the young ones by pulling dirt and bugs from their hair. When the silverback says it's bedtime, each gorilla makes a nest using branches and leaves. The males sleep on the ground. The children snuggle with their mothers in the trees.
Animals in winter. How do animals survive in nature? It's hard to survive in nature. Animals need to find food, to protect themselves from other animals, and to find shelter and warmth in harsh weather. Just as human beings do, animals find ways to survive in cold weather. During the cold winter months, some animals migrate to areas that are warmer or have more food. Geese are birds that migrate. Every fall, as the cold sets in and the plants freeze, geese head south in search of green grass and plants to eat. If you look up and see geese flying in a V formation, they are migrating. The V shape helps them to fly. It breaks up the air, pushing against their bodies. It also helps the geese to communicate with each other. Not all animals migrate to survive the winter. Some stay in the Not all animals migrate to survive the winter. Some stay in the same place throughout the year. They have other ways to survive. Squirrels gather extra food in the fall to help them get through the winter. Most squirrels eat only food that comes from plants, such as nuts, seeds, and fruits. These foods can be hard to find in the wintertime. So the squirrels get busy in the fall. They gather more food than they can eat at one time. Then they hide it. But they don't put all the food in one place. They scatter batches of nuts and seeds in hiding places all over their territory. If another animal discovers one of the hiding spots, they won't get all the squirrel's food. The food that a squirrel hides will provide meals for it through the long winter. The black bear is another animal that stays in one place during the winter months. It doesn't store up food for the winter like the squirrel. Instead, a black bear spends the winter sleeping. Black bears live in forests, mountains, and other wilderness areas. In the summer, the bears eat as much food as they can. As the weather gets colder in autumn, their food supply shrinks, so the bears prepare to hibernate or sleep through the winter. When a bear hibernates, its heart beats more slowly. It uses less energy than it does when it is awake. The bears make homes, called dens, in caves, in piles of leaves and sticks, or even in tree holes. When they are ready to hibernate, they crawl into the den. They roll into a ball to stay warm. Then they sleep all winter long. Animals in the wilderness need to stay warm in order to keep alive. Their fur or hair can help them to keep warm in cold weather, just as a coat or sweater can help you to keep warm and cozy. Mountain goats live in mountains that are cold and snowy in winter. They have two kinds of hair to keep them warm. Close to their skin, they have a very fine fur between 2 and 3 inches long. During the winter, mountain goats grow thick hairs, called guard hairs, on top of their fur. These hairs can be up to 8 inches long. Sea otters are expert swimmers that live in freezing cold oceans. Otters are able to stay warm thanks to their heavy fur. This fur is so thick that it is superior to any other animal's fur. Like mountain goats, otters have 2 layers of hair. Their top hairs are waterproof. Whether animals migrate, hide food, hibernate, or have warm fur, they all have special ways to survive the long winter.
Insect hide and seek. Insect hide and seek. What insects have you seen outdoors? Did you look at them closely? What did you see? Insects are all around us, but they can be hard to find. That's because some insects are good at hiding. Their colors and shapes blend with their surroundings and protect them from enemies. In order to spot these insects, you have to look very closely. Have you ever looked at the stem of a rose? The stem has sharp points called thorns. A thorn bug's shape makes it look like one of these thorns. Since thorns aren't tasty, most hungry animals will go right past thorn bugs. Look at the stem in the photo. Can you find the thorn bug? How does it resemble the thorns? Young thorn bugs have another way to protect themselves. They shake together when they sense danger. Their mother feels the stem move and comes to help. Look at the twig in the photo. Can you find the walking stick hiding? Look at the twig in the photo. Can you find the walking stick hiding? It looks as if it is part of the twig. That is its disguise. The name walking stick fits this insect perfectly because the shape of its body makes it look like a stick. It is like a thorn bug because it is shaped like a part of a plant. This helps the insect to hide. However, its texture, the way it feels when you touch it, is quite different from the thorn bugs. This insect has the rough texture of a branch or twig. Walking sticks are among the longest insects in the world. One kind of walking stick is 13 inches long. Most of the time, these insects keep still. If they move at all, they move very slowly. When a tree branch sways in the wind, the walking stick sways right along with it. When you smell a flower, are you also sniffing an insect? It's possible, because when a praying mantis sits on a flower, its green or brown color blends right in. As the mantis flutters and lands on a flower, it seems gentle and harmless. And for people, that is true. However, this insect hides on flowers in order to catch and eat other insects. Look at the photo. Can you find the praying mantis on the flower? The praying mantis, like the walking stick, sits very still. However, when another insect, such as a bee or butterfly, comes by, watch out. The mantis has legs that look like knives and a mouth like a can opener. It uses them to trap and eat the insect. In this way, the praying mantis is different from both the walking stick and the thorn bug. Birds search for food in a tree, but they probably don't notice a treat that's right in front of their beaks. That's because a katydid has a body shape and color that imitates a leaf. It even has veins in its wings that look like the veins on a leaf. So the katydid stays safe by blending with its surroundings, just as the praying mantis, walking stick, and thorn bug do. Look at the photo. Can you find the katydid? While a katydid may not be seen, it can certainly be heard. On warm nights, you might hear groups of them singing to one another. They make their distinctive sound by rubbing their front legs together, and some people think they sound like they are singing the words, Katy did, Katy didn't, Katy did, Katy didn't. In this way, the katydid is quite different from the praying mantis, walking stick, and thorn bug.
All kinds of vets. What do you know about the job of a veterinarian? How do veterinarians care for animals? When you grow up, there are many jobs or professions you can choose to do. If you love animals, you might decide to become a veterinarian or animal doctor. There are all kinds of veterinarians who work with all kinds of animals. Some veterinarians, or vets, treat pets such as dogs and cats, birds, reptiles, rabbits, hamsters, and snakes. A pet doesn't have to be sick to go to a vet. When you first get a pet, you should take it to a veterinarian for a checkup. The vet can give your pet the shots it needs to stay healthy. The vet will also show you how to take care of your pet. Veterinarians also care for animals that are sick or hurt. Vets look for clues that will tell them what's wrong with the animal. Unlike people, animals can't tell the doctor what parts are hurting. Some veterinarians are wildlife veterinarians. They care for animals in zoos and animal parks. This work is especially hard. The veterinarians must know how to take care of a lot of different kinds of animals, such as elephants, panda bears, lions, and monkeys. If one animal is sick, the veterinarian must quickly find out what's wrong. Some veterinarians work only with large animals. Sometimes animals need emergency care in a special animal hospital. When an emergency happens, help is needed right away. The animal might have broken a bone, been hit by a car, eaten something it shouldn't have, or come down with a serious illness. When this happens, emergency veterinarians take care of the animal. Emergency veterinarians take care of all kinds of animals. Some help pets, such as dogs, cats, and reptiles, and others take care of farm, ranch, or zoo animals. Emergency veterinarians are a special kind of vet. They work long hours. They have to work quickly when a new emergency arrives. The emergency room is open all day and all night. It's never closed. When a sick or hurt animal arrives, emergency veterinarians do everything they can to find out what the problem is. These veterinarians get a lot of satisfaction from finding and fixing the problem, so the animal can become healthy and go home again.
My partner and friend. Do you have a pet or know some? How is your pet a friend? Turbo and I were sleeping when Officer Patel rang the doorbell. I peeked through the curtains to see who was there. "Stay," I said to Turbo, and then I opened the door. "I know it's your day off," Officer Patel apologized, "but we need Turbo's help. Would you both come with me?" I dressed in my uniform and strapped Turbo into his harness. When we were ready, Turbo and I joined Officer Patel in his police car. "What happened?" I asked when we were settled. "It's Echo," Officer Patel explained as we drove toward the police station. "I'm afraid he's missing." Echo and Turbo are police dogs. Echo is. The police car stopped at the. Turbo raised his head and gazed across the water. Then he began to bark. Had Turbo smelled something? Had he heard something? Would Turbo lead us to Echo? Officer Patel and I waited. After a while, we heard a soft, faraway bark. It was coming from somewhere on the other side of the pond. "It's Echo," Officer Patel said. "Good dog, Turbo," I said. Echo's barking led us around the pond and through the woods. We came to a building. There he was. There was Echo. Somehow he had gotten trapped inside an empty old shed. His bark at the window seemed to say, "Get me out of here, please." When Turbo saw his friend, he barked too. When I opened the door, Echo and Turbo sure looked happy to see each other. They barked in excitement. Their tails couldn't stop wagging. "Echo and Turbo make quite a team," I said. Officer Patel smiled and agreed.
Ming's Teacher. A Tale from China. What can you train a dog to do? Ming's Teacher. A Tale from China. What can you train a dog to do? How should you treat a dog that you are training? A long time ago, in a small town in China, there lived a man named Cheng who trained dogs. Cheng was a remarkable teacher and could teach dogs how to do amazing tricks. One day, Cheng went to the town square with one of his gifted dogs. People gathered to see what the dog would do, including a young boy named Ming, who was fascinated by Cheng's skill. Cheng held the dog's gaze for a few seconds. Then he nodded and began to hum a tune and clap his hands. The dog sprang up on her hind legs and danced in perfect time with the beat. After the performance, Cheng rewarded the dog with a small treat and patted her head to show his approval. Everyone applauded to show their appreciation and excitement, especially Ming. More than anything, Ming wanted to have the same career as Cheng. "I want to learn how to train dogs the way Cheng does," Ming thought. "After all, how hard can it be?" Ming was eager to get started, so he found a stray dog that had been wandering around town. He took the dog home and named him Li. Ming tried to act just the way Cheng had. He held the dog's gaze and then nodded. "Dance for me, Li," Ming commanded in a loud voice. He hummed a tune and clapped his hands the way Cheng had, but Li responded by looking confused and scared. "Dance, Li! Dance for me, you silly dog!" he urged more loudly. However, the poor dog detected the anger in Ming's voice, and he ran behind a tree and hid. Ming tried again and again, but he was not successful. No matter what he said or did, the dog would not obey him. Now Ming was totally confused and frustrated. He thought he was doing exactly what Chung had done. Why isn't it working for me? He asked himself. So he went to see Chung to ask for his advice, and he brought Lee with him. Master, I have been watching you for a long time. Dogs always obey you. However, this dog pays no attention to what I say. I do not know what I am doing wrong. My dear boy, you want this dog to perform tricks, replied the wise man. But what have you done for the dog? Are you kind to him? Do you soothe him when he is scared? Are you patient with him? Do you reward him when he does well? Ming listened carefully to Chung's questions. Then he nodded and smiled. I understand what you are saying, he said. Thank you, my teacher. He couldn't wait to try the tricks again with Lee. Ming returned home with Lee. From that day on, he was always kind to his dog. He petted him often. He played with him, and he gave him good food to eat. Soon the dog grew to love and trust Ming. A few weeks later, Ming took Lee to the town square. Several people gathered to watch them. Ming stroked Lee's head and smiled at him. He held the dog's gaze for a few seconds. Then, in a kind voice, he gave Lee commands to shake hands and roll over. Lee happily did as he was told, and Ming rewarded him with a treat and patted his head again. The gathering crowd applauded, including Chung, who smiled at Ming. You have learned an important lesson, my son, said Chung. You must give first before you can receive. It is this way with all living creatures.
Goldilocks. What might a little girl find in the home of a small, a medium, and a great big bear? Once upon a time, 3 bears lived together in a cozy cottage. There was a teeny tiny baby bear, a middle-sized mama bear, and a great big papa bear. The cottage was organized perfectly for 3 bears. They had all they needed, and they were very happy there. One morning, the 3 bears made porridge for breakfast. Mama Bear poured it into 3 bowls. There was a little bowl for Baby Bear, a middle-sized bowl for Mama Bear, and a great big bowl for Papa Bear. This porridge is too hot, said Baby Bear in a soft little voice. It is very hot, agreed Mama Bear in her nice medium voice. Let's go for a walk while it cools, said Papa Bear in his great big voice. So that is what they did. While the bears were out walking, a girl named Goldilocks came upon the cottage. Since no one was at home and the cottage was so inviting, she decided to go in to look around. Once inside, she saw the 3 bowls of porridge. How hungry I am, she said, and sat down to eat. But which bowl of porridge should she eat? She decided to try each bowl to distinguish which was the best. She tasted the porridge from Papa Bear's great big bowl. Ouch! She cried. This porridge is much too hot. Next, she tasted the porridge in the middle-sized bowl. Ew, she said, putting the spoon down. This porridge is much too cold. Then she tasted the porridge in the little bowl. Goldilocks said. This porridge is just right. It is not too hot or too cold. And Goldilocks ate the entire bowl. After she ate, Goldilocks went into the living room. She noticed there were 3 chairs. Just like the bowls, the chairs were classified by size. There was a great big chair, a middle-sized chair, and a little chair. First, Goldilocks sat in the great big chair, but it was much too hard. Next, Goldilocks sat in the middle-sized chair, which was much too soft. Finally, she sat in the little chair, which was just the right size. However, as Goldilocks got comfortable, the chair broke. By now, Goldilocks was feeling weary, so she found the bear's bedroom. First, Goldilocks lay down on Papa Bear's great big bed, but it was too hard. Then Goldilocks tried Mama Bear's middle-sized bed, but it was too soft. At last, she curled up on Baby Bear's little bed and smiled. It was perfect, and she fell fast asleep. Meanwhile, the bears had returned home and were quite hungry, so they went to eat their bowls of porridge. When Papa Bear saw his great big bowl, he growled in a loud voice, "Somebody has been eating my porridge!" When Mama Bear saw her middle-sized bowl, she said in a regular voice, "Somebody has been eating my porridge too." And when Baby Bear saw his little bowl, he said in a quiet voice, "Somebody has been eating my porridge, and it's all gone." And he began to cry. Next, the bears went into the living room, where Papa Bear and Mama Bear saw that someone had been sitting in their chairs. Poor Baby Bear cried very hard when he saw his broken chair. The bears went to the bedroom, where Papa Bear and Mama Bear noticed that someone had been resting in their beds. Baby Bear said, "Someone has been sleeping in my bed. There she is." Goldilocks woke up and was startled to find 3 bears staring at her. She ran out of their house as fast as possible and never came back again. Earth changes. What is our planet made of? How is Earth changing? We live on the planet Earth. Earth is a huge sphere or ball shape. This is how it looks if you could see it from space. It is covered with water, rocks, and soil. The blue areas are the water. Almost all of the water is found in oceans. The largest bodies of land are called continents. We live on the continent called North America. All of Earth is covered with a rocky skin called the crust. The crust is many miles thick. It is found under both the oceans and the continents. The crust is made up of many huge rock pieces called plates. Under the crust, the inside of Earth is very, very hot. Earth's surface is always changing. Some of these changes happen suddenly. Let's see what kinds of things can cause sudden changes to Earth's surface. An earthquake is the shaking of the ground. Most earthquakes are caused by huge pieces of rock, Earth's plates, moving under the surface of the Earth. Big pieces of Earth's crust, its outer shell, suddenly break and shift. Earthquakes can cause great damage. They can change the surface of the Earth by breaking hillsides apart and opening huge cracks in the ground. Volcanoes also change Earth. A volcano is a hole or crack in the ground. Sometimes volcanoes erupt or explode. Hot rocks and gas shoot out of the volcano. An eruption is an amazing sight. Glowing rivers of lava often flow down the sides of the volcano. Lava is hot, melted rock. As lava cools, it hardens. Some lava hardens into rock. Sometimes many eruptions leave so much rock that a mountain is formed. Other changes happen slowly. Water and wind cause rocks and earth to wear away. These forces also move bits of rocks and soil to new places. This movement changes the shape of the land. This process is called erosion. Over many years, water and wind can make great changes. For example, erosion caused by flowing water carved the Grand Canyon in the Southwest out of hard rock. Wind constantly carries sand and other small bits of earth from one place to another. It blows soil off dry farmland. As wind throws sand and soil at rock, the shape of the rock slowly changes. In some places, great sheets of ice called glaciers move slowly down the mountains. They carry rocks and soil with them. When the glaciers melt, they leave the rocks and soil behind. Other changes happen slowly because Earth's plates are always moving. The plates glide along slowly on a layer of very hot rock. In some places, the plates bump into each other, and this creates mountains. In other places, the plates move apart. This causes new crust to form. Long ago, the drifting plates moved Earth's continents to where they are today. Scientists who study Earth believe that long ago there was only one huge continent. There was only one ocean. Then the plates that formed the one continent began to drift apart. The continent slowly split into two continents, and then very slowly into the 7 continents we have today. The movement of the continents to where they are now took place over many years. What an amazing planet we live on, and it is going to keep changing, in fast ways and in slow ways.
Clouds all around. What do clouds tell us about the weather? Look up. The sky can be bright and blue, or it can be dark and gloomy. Are there clouds in the sky? The sky and clouds can tell you about. Have you ever watched a cloud for a minute or two? Have you seen the edges of the cloud get bigger or smaller? You are watching a cloud forming. A cloud is made up of tiny water drops or tiny pieces of ice floating together in the air. The heat of the sun warms lakes, oceans, and rivers. As these waters warm, some of the water evaporates or changes from liquid water into a gas. The gas is called water vapor. The water vapor. Although there are many different kinds of clouds, there are 3 main types of clouds. Scientists who study weather name the types of clouds mostly by the way they look. Have you seen big white clouds as puffy as white cotton balls? These are cumulus clouds. Both rain and snow come from clouds, but not every cloud has rain or snow pouring out of it. So why do some clouds bring us rain or snow? This happens when the drops of water inside a cloud freeze onto the pieces of ice. The pieces of ice grow bigger and bigger until the cloud cannot hold them anymore. So the ice falls out of the cloud. It falls to earth as snowflakes. The ice might fall through air warm enough to melt the snowflakes floating in the air. Then it falls to earth as rain. The clouds can help you decide what to wear. How would you dress when you see fluffy cumulus clouds in a bright blue sky? How would you dress if you saw stratus clouds in a gray sky? Look up at the clouds. The clouds can help to predict the weather. Clean water. What? Shani's class discussed clean water every day, and every night Shani tried. The next day, Shani woke up early the next morning and turned on the computer. There was an email from grandfather. Dear Shani, clean water is a big problem all around the globe. Here in Kenya, we understand how important it is. I have a well that gives me clean water, but most people do not have the money to build one. We worry about the animals, too. Zebras, lions, elephants, tigers, and giraffes find fewer and fewer clean watering holes. Animals, like people, need clean, healthy water, or they will get very sick. Good luck with your picture. The whole world needs clean water. We must all work together to solve the water problem. Love, Grandfather. Shani now had an idea for a memorable picture. She used a pencil to sketch her drawing, and that night she colored it in. On World Water Day, the whole school was decorated with colorful posters. Shani's was hanging right up front, next to the newspaper articles and letters from the mayor, the factory owner, and all the people who loved the beautiful river.
Why the Sun and Moon Are in the Sky. A Tale from Africa. How do you think the sun and moon got into the sky? This folktale offers an explanation. Long, long ago, the sun and moon lived on Earth and shared a home on top of a hill. From their home, they were able to observe the vast sea. Every morning and evening, the sun and moon left their home to visit their good friend, the sea, and her family. The sea had a large family. Among her children were dolphins, whales, seals, and schools of fish. All of these creatures called the sea Mother, and she never went anywhere without them. One morning, while the sun and moon were visiting the sea, they had the same idea. "Dear friend, each morning and evening we visit you," Sun said. "Yes," added Moon. "Now we would like to invite you to our home. Will you come to visit us?" "How very thoughtful of you to invite me to your home," replied the sea. "Of course I would like to visit you. However, I never go anywhere without all my children, and I fear that your house is too small." The sun and moon looked up at their small house. They thought about how big the sea was and how many children she had. "We shall build a new house," said Sun. "Yes," added Moon. "We will build a larger house so that you and all your children can visit us." So the sun and moon built a very large house. Their new house was so huge that it covered the entire top of the hill. In fact, it was the most enormous house that the sun and moon had ever seen. As soon as their house was completed, the sun and moon went to the sea. As soon as their house was completed, the sun and moon went to the sea. "Our new house is finished. We are certain that it is large enough for you and your children to visit us," said the sun. "Please come and visit us tomorrow," said the moon. The next day, the sea and her entire family arrived at the sun and moon's new house. The sea asked, "May we come in?" The sun and moon replied, "Yes, dear friend, do come in." So the sea flowed in with some of her children, including small fish, large fish, spotted fish, striped fish, and some beautiful creatures with shells. Soon the floor was covered with nearly 2 feet of water, and the sun and moon were standing on top of a table. As the sea kept flowing in with more creatures, she asked the sun and moon, "Should we continue to come in?" And the sun and moon replied, "Yes, dear friend, do come in." The sea kept pouring in with more of her children, sharks, stingrays, dolphins, seals, and a giant whale. Now the sea and her family flowed above the tables, and the sun and moon had to climb on top of their roof. The sea kept asking, "Should we continue to come in?" The sun and moon did not wish to be rude. They replied, "Yes, dear friend, do come in." As the sea flowed in with more of her children, she filled the house to the ceiling. The sun and moon had nowhere else to climb. Their whole house was under water, so they flew up into the sky. and there they have remained to this very day, watching over their good friend, the sea, and all her children.
Apples and gravity. Have you ever had questions about the world around us? One day, Isaac was sitting and thinking under an apple tree on the farm. He saw an apple fall from the tree. Isaac told other people about gravity. He explained that gravity is a pulling force that works across space. Things do not have to touch. Isaac Newton wrote important books that help people learn about their world. He helped people understand how the sun, moon, and planets move in space. He helped people learn about gravity on Earth, too. People thanked him for helping them to understand the laws of nature. Isaac Newton became a famous man. Statues were made of him. This statue shows Isaac thinking deeply. He is looking down at something while he thinks. What is the object? Yes, an apple. The Queen of England found a special way to thank Isaac Newton. She rewarded him for his hard work by making him a knight.
The hidden sun. Have you ever looked at the sky? What objects have you seen in the sky? Good morning, Ms. Moore said when everyone was settled. Today we are going to continue our science topic. We have been learning about the sky. Can anyone remember some of the things we've talked about? Holly raised her hand. Comets, she said. The stars, Mike said. The moon, the Big Dipper, constellations, clouds. Very good. Now we are going to write reports. We'll work in groups of 2. Each group will think of something in the sky to work on this week. On Friday, you will present your reports to the class. You will need to research your topics. You should include pictures in your reports. Your pictures can be photographs, drawings, videos, or anything else you can think of. Maybe we could give a report about a solar eclipse, Holly told her partner Mike. A solar eclipse is really interesting. That sounds fun. What is a solar eclipse? Said Mike. Ms. Moore said a solar eclipse happens when the moon moves between the sun and Earth and hides the sun, said Holly. Look, this book tells that when the moon hides the sun, the sky gets dark. It's like someone has turned off the light. Holly added, but the light isn't really off. The light is just as strong during an eclipse. It says that watching a solar eclipse can ruin our eyes, even when the sun is hidden by the moon. Then how does anyone know what it looks like? They said at exactly the same time. The next day, after school, Holly and Mike worked on their report at Holly's house. Holly's mother helped them find a solar eclipse website that was easy to understand. Look, Mike said, pointing to the computer monitor. There's a picture of the moon passing between Earth and the sun. Only part of the sun is hidden. It says that's a partial solar eclipse. When the moon hides all of the sun, it's called a total eclipse. I wish I could see a solar eclipse, Holly sighed. But it says here, a total eclipse only happens every 65 years or so. But partial eclipses happen much more often, Mike said. It says there's some kind of eclipse about 2 times a year. Maybe we can see one. But how? Remember what Ms. Moore told us? Looking at the sun is very bad for our eyes. Then how did people take those pictures? Mike asked. There's an observatory nearby, Holly's mother told them. The people there study the sky and the moon and the stars. Maybe they can answer your question. Mike and Holly called the observatory and spoke with a scientist named Mr. Jackson. We have a question, Holly asked. How do people know what solar eclipses look like if they can't watch them? Would you like to visit our observatory? Mr. Jackson said. We're having a special program for kids next week. I can show you all the ways to see a solar eclipse without hurting your eyes. Holly's mom took them to the observatory. They saw many things. They learned about the moon, the planets, and the sun. Mr. Jackson joined them as they were reading a sign that said, "The light from the sun is very bright. Never look directly at the sun." Are you the people who want to know how to watch a solar eclipse? He asked. Holly and Mike nodded. Mr. Jackson led them to a room filled with telescopes. Everyone wears special eclipse glasses, he explained. The glasses filter out the sunlight that can hurt your eyes. Mr. Jackson gave Holly and Mike some special eclipse glasses. Do you wear them? Holly asked as she put them on. Yes, and here at the observatory, we have special telescopes with special filters. When we look through a telescope, the moon, planets, and other things in the sky seem very close to us. When we look at the sun, we use telescopes that filter the light. Mr. Jackson gave Mike and Holly lots of solar eclipse photos and thanked them for coming. On Friday, Mike and Holly put on their special glasses and passed the photos around. Then they told the rest of the class everything they had learned at the observatory.
How does energy make your hair stand up? You can create static electricity by rubbing two objects together. If you rub a balloon against your hair, electrons move from the balloon. When you stroll across a carpet on a dry day, the rubbing between your shoes and the rug can move electrons from the rug to your body. The change. Storm clouds contain small drops of water and ice particles. Sometimes they rub against each other as moving air pushes them upwards. As the drops of water and ice particles rub together, they build up electrical charges. Positively charged particles move to the top of the cloud. Particles with negative charges move to the bottom. As these differently charged particles move past each other, they create a spark. Sometimes one of these sparks travels down from a cloud. When it gets close to the ground, an electric current rushes up from a tall tree or building to meet it. That electric current makes the lightning that people see. Lightning can take different shapes, such as forks or streaks. Electric current is not only found in lightning. You use electric current every day. Electric current provides the energy you need to power lights, TVs, computers, and many other products. We use energy from electric current to produce heat, light, sound, and motion.
How Thunder and Lightning Came to Be, a Choctaw Tale. How can The birds flew to their new home on the soft white cloud. When they had finally settled in, it started to drizzle. They remembered one blustery day. It was time for Mrs. Sun listened to the noise of thunder made by Mrs. Bird's eggs as they rolled through the clouds. He watched the streaks of lightning as Mr. Bird flew across the sky and gathered all of Mrs. Bird's eggs. "Perfect," said Sun. "The loud thunder and the bright lightning will warn the people." From this time on, Sun has listened for the thunder of Mrs. Bird's eggs and looked for the lightning from Mr. Bird's feathers. Only then does Sun send a storm to the people. As soon as they hear the thunder and see the lightning, the people hurry inside. High up on the cloud, Mrs. Bird keeps laying eggs, and Mr. Bird keeps catching them. Once in a while, the silly birds still try to think of a way to warn the people that a storm is coming. Teamwork in space. The first parts of the space station were built mostly by people from the United States. Over the next few years, many parts were added to the space station. Japan, Canada, Brazil, and many countries in Europe helped. Many of the parts were carried to the space station by astronauts in space shuttles. In 2008, a robot built by the Canadian Space Agency joined the team on the space station. Its name is Dexter. Dexter has arms about 11 feet long. It can attach power tools as fingers. Dexter is able to help with jobs outside the space station. Over the years, shuttle teams did several jobs to get ready to bring more people to the station. They added new solar panels to increase electric power. 3 new astronauts came to the space station. That made a total of 6 people living on the station. In 2010, everyone on the space station team had something to celebrate. They could celebrate the fact that people had been living on the space station far above Earth for 10 whole years. Teamwork made it possible.
Great inventions. What inventions do you use in your daily life? What would your life be like without them? You use inventions all the time. An invention is something new. Inventors are curious people. They figure out how to solve problems. An inventor can imagine a new thing that will help make people's lives easier. What would life be like without telephones? People used to communicate by sending letters. If the letter was going far away, that meant it could take weeks to get important news. People also sent coded messages called telegrams. Telegrams came quickly, but you had to learn a special code to send them. Over 100 years ago, Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone. It carried people's voices to faraway places. Soon, people could make calls from their homes and jobs. They could share news, make plans, order goods, and much more. But people needed to call from other places too. New inventors made cell phones that could call from anywhere. Today, cell phones can also send text messages and help you go online. How would you read at night if it weren't for electric light? The light bulb is another invention that changed the world. For many years, people used fire to make light. Burning wood, candles, and oil made a dim, smoky light. Lights that burned gas came next. Gas lights cost less and gave off more light, but they were dangerous. Breathing the gas made people sick. Gas lights sometimes caused fires, too. People needed a bright, safe light. Then, an inventor made streetlights that used electric sparks. These were safer, but they didn't last long. People needed an electric light that would last a long time. In 1879, Thomas Edison found a way to make a light bulb that was both safe and long-lasting. His invention let people see at night while they worked, played, and studied. Today, inventors still work to improve the light bulb. The newest light bulbs give off less heat and use less energy, and like Edison's light bulb, they last a long time. Can you picture a world with no cars? The invention of cars changed the way people live. Long ago in America, most people traveled by foot, by horse, or by train. People who walked or rode horses could go anywhere, but travel was slow. Riding a train was faster, but people could only go where the trains went. In 1893, the first gasoline-powered car in America was invented. Now, people could drive anywhere there was a road. At first, cars were made slowly, one by one. The work was complicated. The cars cost a lot of money. Then, in the early 1900s, Henry Ford changed the way cars were made. He invented the assembly line to make cars. A person who is a part of an assembly line makes only one part of the car. Other workers make other parts of the car. The workers can do their work very quickly. Because Ford's assembly lines made cars quickly, his Model T cars were less expensive than other cars. Many people had enough money to purchase one of these cars. Now, people could live in one place and drive to work someplace else. Many people still do this. Cars have let us travel far. Do you use a computer in class or at home? Computers help us in many ways. They help us to write and send messages. They help us find information quickly. They help doctors know what is wrong with sick people. Who helped create this very useful machine? Computers did not have just one inventor. They had many. The first computers in America were used in the 1940s and early 50s. They were huge. They filled whole rooms at colleges and businesses. Inventors imagined that one day people would use computers in their homes. They looked for ways to make parts smaller and easier to use. They invented the microchip. This tiny device allowed computers to do more and take up less space. People could own personal computers. The first personal computers were heavy. Most stood on a desk or a table in a person's home. Then inventors figured out how to make computers smaller and lighter. Laptop computers are easy to carry around. People continue to invent new computers and programs that let us use computers in new ways. It is fun to imagine what computers of the future might do. The Furry Alarm Clock. Do you like animals? Do you have a pet? What special things about your pet do you love? There's just one little problem with my alarm clock pet. I can't find a solution, not even from the vet. My dog's an early riser, far earlier than me. He's up and howling loudly each day at 3:30. I tried to keep him quiet. I tell him, no, no, no. But my dog just looks at me and paces to and fro. I invite him to lie down at the foot of my bed, but my dog's an early riser and prefers to howl instead. Little Crocodile. I have a baby crocodile. So far he has. And then he's ready for his lunch, a tasty fish or two to munch. When done, he bends each little knee. I think he's saying hi to me. My croc is growing every day. He'll need a bigger place to stay. A jungle? None by me or you. I wonder, will my bathtub do?
The Squeaky Bed, a tale from Puerto Rico. What sounds can you hear at night before you go to sleep? Once there was a little girl who lived on a farm with her mama, her papa, a cat, a dog, a pig, and a horse. The girl loved the farm. She loved her mama and her papa, and she loved all of her animals. The only thing the girl didn't love was loud noises. She would jump when she heard the rooster crow in the morning. She would cry when her mother cleaned the house with a vacuum cleaner. And she would run and hide in the closet when thunder came. And of course, the greater the volume, the more each noise upset her. For the little girl's birthday, her papa made her a splendid brass bed. The brass was smooth to the touch, and Mama had polished it until it was as shiny as gold. The little girl was delighted. That night, Mama and Papa tucked her into her beautiful brass bed and wished her sweet dreams. The little girl closed her eyes. Then she heard something squeaky. The little girl closed her eyes. Then she heard something squeaky. Squeak went her brand new bed. She sat up and the noise was even louder. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Wah, wah, she cried. And when no one came to her rescue, she cried even harder. Wah, wah, wah. Mama and Papa came running. This bed is squeaky, cried the little girl. Do not be so nervous, our little love, said Mama and Papa. A squeaky bed will not harm you. But perhaps our kind cat will make you feel better. So they brought in the cat and put her on the bed. Thank you, Mama and Papa, said the little girl. She kissed them each on the cheek and petted the cat. Then she closed her eyes. Again the bed went squeak, squeak, squeak. Wah, 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 cried the little girl. Meow, 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 screeched the cat. Mama and Papa came running. Do not cry, little girl. Do not meow, kind cat, they said. A squeaky bed will not harm you. But perhaps our brave dog will make you feel safer. So they brought in the dog. Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Papa, said the girl. And she turned over to go to sleep. And again the bed went squeak, squeak, squeak. Wah, 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 cried the little girl. Meow, 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 screeched the cat. Ruff, 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 barked the dog. And again Mama and Papa came running. Do not cry, little girl. Do not screech, kind cat. Do not bark, brave dog, they said. It is only a squeaky bed, and a little squeak will not harm you. Wah, wah, wah. Meow, meow, meow. Ruff, 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 answered the girl, the cat, and the dog. So Mama said, I know just what you need. Our beautiful big pig will distract you from that disturbing squeak. So Mama went and got the pig. She put him right on the bed next to the girl and the cat and the dog. Then Mama and Papa said good night. But as soon as Mama and Papa left, the bed began to squeak. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Wah, 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 cried the little girl. Meow, 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 screeched the cat. Ruff, 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 barked the dog. Oink, 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 squealed the pig. And again Mama and Papa came running. Hush, hush, said Mama to the little girl. It is just a little noise. Try not to let your delicate senses get the better of you. But just in case they do, added Papa, we will bring in our trustworthy horse. She will make you feel secure. So they went to the barn to get the horse. They led the horse into the room and told her to get onto the bed, which she did. Now you will have nothing to fear, said Mama and Papa as they turned off the lights. Squeak, squeak, squeak went the bed even louder than before. Wah, 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 cried the girl. Then each of the animals joined in. Meow, meow, meow. Ruff, ruff, ruff. Oink, oink, oink. Neigh, neigh, neigh. As they ran to the room, Mama and Papa held their ears because the noise was so loud. Suddenly, a crash stopped all the noises. The bed had collapsed. That night, the girl, the cat, the dog, the pig, and even the horse slept with Mama and Papa. The next day, Papa made the little girl a brand new brass bed, and Mama polished it. "Yippee!" shouted the little girl as she jumped on the bed and bounced up and down. Squeak, squeak, squeak went the bed. "Oh no," said Mama and Papa.
The Sheep, the Pig, and the Goose Who Set Up House. A tale from Norway. Why might a sheep and a pig build a home? Who might build a home with them? What kind of home might they build together? Long ago, a sheep lived on a farm. He was always given plenty to eat, so he was quite contented with his life. Then one morning, everything changed. On that morning, the farmer's wife brought his food as usual. She set it down in front of him and said, "Enjoy this good food while you can, dear sheep, because you won't be around much longer." She cackled to herself and added, "The next time we meet, you will be on our dinner table." The sheep was shocked by what the farmer's wife said, but since he was quite clever, he came up with a plan. First, he ate all the food the farmer's wife had brought. Then he butted down the door to his pen and ran away as fast as he could. The sheep ran to the neighboring farm where his friend, the pig, lived. "Good morning, dear friend," said the sheep. "Good morning to you," replied the pig, who was building a larger pen for himself. "But tell me, dear friend, why do you look so disturbed?" The sheep whispered in the pig's ear, "I have just been informed that the farmers are fattening us up because they intend to eat us for dinner. The farmer's wife told this to me." "Oh my!" cried the pig. "What shall we do?" "We will go off and live on our own," said the sheep. "We will build a house for ourselves." "Yes," exclaimed the pig. "It will be our project. I will use my hammer. We will build a fine home together." Then the pig and the sheep ran off. Soon the pair met a goose that lived on another nearby farm. "Hello," said the goose. "Where are you both?" Soon the pair met a goose that lived on another nearby farm. "Hello," said the goose. "Where are you both off to?" "Hello," said the sheep. "We are running away because we learned that the farmers are planning to eat us for dinner. So we are off to build ourselves a house and live independently." "Oh my goodness," cried the goose. "What if my farmer is planning to eat me?" "Let me go with you," he begged them. "I am a fine carpenter, and I can make beautiful furniture. After all, every house needs furniture." "That is very true," replied the sheep and pig. "You are welcome to join us." So the sheep, the pig, and the goose went off and found a good location for their home. Using timber from the forest, the sheep and pig built a fine structure that was big enough for three. And the goose made lovely furniture for their home. Before too long, the happy trio moved into their brand new home. They were unaware, however, that a wolf lived in the woods nearby and had been watching them. You can be sure that this wolf was up to no good. He wanted nothing more than to get into their home and eat them all for dinner. So the wolf planned a trick to get in. He knocked on the door of their house and said, "I'm just in the middle of baking and have run out of flour. Could you spare a cup?" But the three friends knew all about the tricks of wolves. After the trouble they went through to build it, they were not about to be eaten in their own home. As soon as the wolf came inside the house, the sheep gave him such a butt that he almost went through the ceiling. Then the pig began to bite his legs, and the goose pecked him on the back with her strong beak. The wolf ran out of the house and into the woods and was never seen or heard from again. And the three friends lived happily ever after in their marvelous home.
The Cat's Bell. The Cat's Bell, based on a fable by Aesop. How can mice work together to keep a cat away? A hungry little mouse peeked out of her hole. Her tummy rumbled. She could see a table loaded with good things to eat. The people in her house had finished dinner. "Look at all the lovely leftovers," she squeaked. The other mice sniffed and sighed. They were hungry too. "So much yummy food," said the little mouse's friend, "and we can't have any. It's not fair." The hungry little mouse nodded. The food was there, but so was Max, the cat. He was looking at the mouse hole and swishing his tail back and forth. Her tummy rumbled again. "I'm going to get supper," she said. "Don't go," squeaked her friend. "You could get hurt." "We have to do something about the cat then," said the first little mouse. "We have to do something about the cat then," said the first little mouse. "But what can we do?" asked her friend. The other mice were listening to them. "We need to find a dog to chase Max away," one said. "That's silly," said another. "Where are we going to find a dog? Besides, what if the dog chases us too? We can't risk that." "Let's just wait until he goes outside," said a timid mouse. "But he could sneak back in," said an older mouse. "That's the trouble. We never know when he's coming." Soon the mice were in the middle of a big conflict. One mouse after another shouted out ideas about what to do. Each mouse tried to shout louder than the others. The first little mouse couldn't stand the noise. She put her paws over her ears. Then the little mouse had an idea. "Noise!" Then the little mouse had an idea. "Noise! That's the solution!" she shouted, taking her paws from her ears. "Max sneaks up on us because he's so quiet. If we hear him coming, we can run away safely." The other mice nodded. "What we need to do," said the first mouse, "is put a bell on the cat." All the mice jumped up and down in excitement. They twirled their tails and clapped their paws. What a wonderful idea! Then a wise old mouse spoke up. "Yes," he said, "it's a good idea. But let me ask you this. Who will bell the cat?" The mice stopped clapping. They looked at each other. Who would take such a risk and put a bell on the cat? "Not me," said one, and another, and another. "You do it." "No, you." They pushed and shouted at each other. None of the mice wanted to get close to the cat. Another argument was starting. "Stop!" cried the little mouse. "There's no need to quarrel. We must all work together." The mice got quiet and shifted their feet. "I know where there's a bell," said the timid mouse. "It's in the children's room." "When Max goes outside, I'll get the bell," offered a strong mouse. "I can find a ribbon," said the little mouse's friend. "We'll string the bell on the ribbon," said 3 young mice. "And we'll put it where the people will find it with a note that says, 'For Max,'" said 2 grown-up mice. Early the next morning, all the mice were watching when the people came into the kitchen for breakfast. "Oh, look at the pretty ribbon with the bell," said the woman. "And it's for Max." She quickly tied it on Max. He looked very silly as he ran to hide, the bell jingling with every step. All the little mice were thrilled. They couldn't wait for the people to finish breakfast so the mice could have theirs.
Anansi's Sons, a tale from Africa. What are your special skills? How can you help people with them? Long ago, before the moon rose high in the sky at night, Anansi the spider had 6 sons. The first son could see problems from far away, so he was called Sea Trouble. The second son was able to build roads by cutting through thick forest, so he was called Road Builder. The third son could drink up mighty rivers, so he was called River Drinker. The fourth son could quickly catch animals, so he was called Game Catcher. The fifth son could throw a stone a long distance to hit a mark, so he was called Stone Thrower. And the sixth son was big and round, so he was called Cushion. One day, Anansi went away on a long trip. When he didn't return a few weeks later, his sons became concerned. The son called See Trouble swiftly climbed to the top of a very tall tree and looked all around for his father. Suddenly, he spotted Anansi and called out to his brothers, "I see where our father is. He has fallen into a river, and he is being swallowed by a huge green fish." Then the son called Road Builder swung into action. "Follow me," he cried. He quickly built a road that led to the river. The other 5 brothers followed after him. Next, it was time for the son called River Drinker to act. "Stand back," he shouted. Then he drank huge gulps of water until the river was dry. The son called Game Catcher ran to the green fish on the river bottom. He cut open the fish, and Anansi jumped out. Just then, a hungry hawk flew down from the sky. It grabbed Anansi in its sharp claws and flew up toward the clouds. The son called Stone Thrower acted quickly. He picked up a stone and threw it at the hawk. Crack! The stone hit the hawk, and it dropped Anansi. Down, down, down he fell. "I will save him," the son called Cushion called. So Cushion stretched out on the ground. Plop! Anansi landed on soft cushion, and he was not hurt. That night, Anansi said to his sons, "You have been very brave, and I respect each one of you. Thank you, my sons." The following night, Anansi was walking in the forest when he saw a beautiful shining sphere. "I will take this shining ball home and give it to one of my sons," he thought. "It will be a fine reward for the son who did the most to save my life." Anansi took the ball and headed home. But then he realized what a difficult decision he had to make, since each of his sons deserved a reward. He decided to ask the sky god, Naomi, for his advice. Anansi explained to Naomi what each son had done to save his life. The sky god asked to meet Anansi's sons. So Anansi brought Naomi to his home and gathered his sons. "I will give the shining sphere to the son who did the most to save my life," Anansi said. "Naomi will make the decision." Then Naomi spoke. "I believe See Trouble should get the shining sphere, since he was the one who first discovered that his father was in trouble." He then presented it to See Trouble. However, See Trouble replied, "I cannot accept the shining sphere because I did not help the most." So Naomi next presented the shining sphere to Road Builder, who gave the same answer. As each son in turn replied in the same way, Naomi smiled. Just as he had guessed, they all helped equally. "I will place the shining sphere in the sky, where I hope it will inspire all creatures on earth to work together," he said. So Naomi took the beautiful sphere up into the sky, and to this day, that is where the moon has remained.
Paul Bunyan and the Popcorn Blizzard, an American Tall Tale. What would you do if it snowed popcorn? America is a mighty big land with some mighty big heroes. But Paul Bunyan was the biggest and strongest hero of all. Paul was born in Maine. When he was just a newborn baby, Paul was so big that it took 10 huge trees to construct his crib. It took a herd of cows to keep his milk bottle filled, and an entire wheat field to make the 40 bowls of porridge he ate for breakfast. As fast as some babies grow in 10 years, Paul grew in a single month. His mama had to be very creative when making clothing for her unusual son. She used wagon wheels for the buttons on his shirt. When Paul began to walk, he was so tall that he could cover a mile in a single step. Paul's father taught him how to swing an axe. And cut down trees. They sold logs from the trees to lumber mills to make wood. When Paul grew older, he decided to head west, where there were plenty of forests. He arrived out west during the winter season that came to be known as the blue snow. Nobody could have imagined the winter would be so cold. That air was so frigid that people there shivered and turned blue just thinking about it. It was so cold that even the snow turned blue. One day, Paul was walking over huge blue snowdrifts and brushing the snow off the treetops. He was listening to the wind howl when suddenly he heard another sound. It was the sound of a baby animal crying. Paul searched in a snowdrift that was as tall as a mountain. Then he pulled out the biggest, bluest baby ox he had ever seen. Paul named him Babe. From that moment on, Paul and Babe were best friends, and they were never apart. Paul and Babe had fun in the snow while he waited for winter to pass. As soon as the snow had left the ground, Paul got an axe and began to chop down trees. With one swing of his axe, 10 trees would fall. Paul hired a team of hundreds of lumberjacks to help him cut down trees and clear the land. That spring was warm and mild. Paul's team cleared so much land that farmers planted row after row of corn in the new fields. When summer came, the sun got hotter and hotter, and the cornstalks grew taller and taller. The time came in the growing cycle for the cornstalks to form ears of corn. The kernels of corn on each ear grew bigger and bigger. Paul's team went right on clearing more land for fields. One day, when the sun came up, it was scorching. The lumberjacks couldn't work. As Paul walked by, the men rushed to him because his shadow was the only shade for miles. When they complained about the heat, nobody heard anyone else. Their words melted from the heat before they could reach anyone's ears. All of a sudden, the corn started popping. All across Iowa and half of Kansas, the big corn kernels burst right off the ears as loud as fireworks. No one predicted the heat would cause the kernels to pop the way they did. Clouds of popped corn flew through the air and gently sank to earth like giant snowflakes. In fact, Paul's lumberjacks thought the popcorn kernels were snowflakes. "It's a snowstorm," they shouted. The lumberjacks ran inside to put on their jackets, boots, and gloves and ran back out again. Then they began to make popcorn snowmen. They made popcorn balls and had popcorn snowball fights. As for Paul, he just stood and watched his lumberjacks and grinned. He saw that in all the excitement, everyone forgot to think about the heat. He knew his team would soon be back at work chopping trees, refreshed by the popcorn blizzard.
Meet the artists. Next week, our school will take part in a special event called Celebrate the Arts. When you hear the arts, what do you think of? You may think of art class or music. The arts include art and music, as well as dancing, acting, singing, and writing. During Celebrate the Arts Week, you will have a chance to learn about different arts. You will also meet local artists. You may be surprised to learn that some of the artists are your classmates. Lei Mei Kwan is an artist who will be featured during Celebrate the Arts Week. Lei Mei, a second grader, is a talented piano player. Lei Mei practices playing the piano 10 hours each week. That helps explain why she is so good. Lei Mei started playing the piano when she was only 4 years old. Lei Mei gave her first solo performance last year at our community's annual summer festival. She played popular songs, classical songs, and jazz songs, and they were all a hit. Her playing was so popular, she has already been asked to perform at next year's festival. After school, Lei Mei's mother says, Lei Mei can hardly wait to sit at the piano and play. After about an hour, I encourage her to go outside and play. She goes out and plays, but soon she is back sitting at the piano. The piano is her passion. Anyone who hears her play knows that. Marcos Estrella is another second-grade artist. Unlike Lei Mei, Marcos is an actor. His aunt recalls how Marcos would pretend to be characters in stories he heard. When he was younger, we would read him a story, Aunt Linda said. After hearing the story once, he would take on the personality of one of the characters. He would pretend to be a wolf or an explorer all day. We knew that he would be a talented actor. Today, Marcos performs with the community theater. He auditioned for his first part when he was 6 years old. He played a supporting role in that play. For the second play, the theater director chose a performance that would star the young Marcos. The play earned many awards, including Best Actor for Marcos. Lei Mei and Marcos's talents represent two different art forms. What art form interests you? If you are not sure, plan to attend the events offered during Celebrate the Arts Week. Come meet Lei Mei, Marcos, and other artists. We're just like any other children, Marcos said. We found what makes us.
Give me a brown box. What places have you imagined? Give me a brown box, and I'll give you an igloo with a polar bear in a white fur coat. Give me a brown box, and I'll give you a mailbox. Won't you drop me a note? Music sends me. When I hear the orchestra play, the music sends me miles away. Kettle drums boom and cymbals crash. I'm in a storm. See the lightning flash? Zing, zing, zing. Tootle, toot, toot goes the clarinet. I'm a duck in the pond. Did I get you wet? Tweet, tweet, tweet. Now I hear a flute. See the pretty bird in her feathery suit? When someone plucks the harp, 1, 2, I'm a rainbow red, yellow, and blue. Oompa, oompa, the tubas roar. I'm in a castle. Hear the giants snore? Loud or soft, however you play, music sends me outdoors, far away.
Color your community. How can people help their community by painting on a wall? When you visit the Miracle Manor neighborhood in warm Tucson, Arizona, you will see a colorful mural painted by friends and neighbors. But this mural wasn't always there. It used to be just a blank wall. After many years, this area needed a new look and a new spirit. The neighborhood was troubled by crime. People living there didn't have many places to go or many things to do. The residents decided to make their neighborhood a better place to live. Neighbors began to organize projects to bring their community back to life. They met many times to talk about what they could do. Then they had an idea. They would paint a mural to make their neighborhood beautiful. People became excited about the project and looked for ways to help. They gave their time to plan and paint the mural. Some companies gave money to pay for the costs of painting the mural. Now, they had to decide what to paint in their mural. When they met to decide what to paint, residents began to tell stories about their community. Younger and older neighbors met often to talk about. Both children and grown-ups took special classes. It took many people and many hours to plan and paint the mural. Many people were happy to see it get painted. People in the community had fun learning and working together. Finally, the mural was finished. The neighborhood held a huge party to celebrate. Many people, including the mayor, came to the celebration. There were food, drinks, and even music at the party. People pointed out stories about their lives that were painted into the mural. The mural had saved their memories and the tales that helped make them a community. The mural was an example of how neighbors can unite to work for the good of their community. Everyone was amazed at how people worked together to make their dream of a community mural and a better place to live come true. Miracle Manor was alive and well once again.
Why people drum? How do people... In African countries, there are many kinds of drums. The drums are used to communicate and make all kinds of sounds. Some drums make a deep... The country of Japan has special drums called taiko. These drums... Native Americans also use drums at their festivals called powwows. Native American people come together from all over the country for powwows. They dress in special outfits. Hundreds of years ago, Native Americans gathered for many reasons. Sometimes they celebrated successful battles or hunts. Other times, they celebrated special family times or special events, such as the harvest. Dancers, drummers, and singers still gather at powwows today. They celebrate, share their culture, and continue their traditions. Many people come to watch. Some people believe that the drum is the heart of the powwow. The drum is covered with animal hide. It is so large that 8 or more people can play it at the same time. The people sing along as they beat the drum. Many of the songs have been passed down through the years. Other songs are new and tell about things happening now. Native Americans treat the drum with respect. They listen to its beat, dance, and sing. They celebrate their traditions and culture. Powwows help Native Americans remember their past and look forward to their future.
Let's dance. What dances do you know? When do you do them? In many cultures, dancing is a favorite tradition. It is a fun way to celebrate with family and friends. In Native American families, some dances have been done since ancient times. The same dances have been taught by parents to their children. Children and adults dance to mark special days and annual events, such as the harvest. When families share these special occasions, the gathering is called a powwow. Some dances are done at certain powwows. The men's traditional dance tells the story of an animal hunt. The dancers use animal bones, beads, hides, and feathers to make their outfits. In the jingle dance, women decorate their skirts with small metal cones. The cones jingle as the women dance. Just like the traditional Native American dances, square dance has been around for hundreds of years. It is the official national folk dance of the United States. Just like the traditional Native American dances, square dance has been around for hundreds of years. It is the official national folk dance of the United States. Square dancing began in England and France, and then came to America. In the early years of our country, people came together in small towns and held square dances. After working hard on farms all week, Saturday night square dances were a fun way to see friends and neighbors. As people started to spread out across the country, the popularity of square dance spread too. In square dancing, everyone dances together. All the dancers start by facing each other in a square. One person calls out each of the movements, such as swing your partner and circle to the left. Today, square dancers dress up before they hit the dance floor. The women wear full skirts and the men usually wear a Western-style handkerchief or tie and boots. Square dance is a fun tradition that still brings people together. Another kind of traditional dance is called folklorico. Folklorico dances are performed by people who live in Mexico and also by Mexican people who live in America. The dances are done for fun, to tell stories, and to help people remember their history. Folklorico dances are done at parties and community events. A small band often stands behind the dancers to play the music. Men who dance the folklorico wear a wide hat and a red belt and tie. Women dancers often wear full skirts in bright colors. The dancers hold out the edges of these skirts. The skirts look like wings as the women dance. The swishing sound of the skirts add drama to the dance, along with the dancers' stomping feet. Adults do these dances. Children learn them too. In Mexico and America, kids have fun learning what each dance means and how to do the steps of the dance. The hora is a traditional dance in the Jewish religion that is sometimes performed for an audience, but is mostly done for fun. The hora is a very cheerful dance. Dancers hold hands and dance sideways in a circle. The circle has a special meaning. It shows that everyone does this dance together. No dancer is more special than any other. The steps are simple and quick to learn. People dance the hora at weddings and other celebrations. Most guests make an effort to join the dance. People who dance the hora for the first time often laugh a lot. The tradition of dancing the hora began in Europe. Over time, it became an important folk dance in Israel. Today, the hora is often danced at Jewish weddings and other celebrations.
Celebrate the flag. Celebrate the flag. What makes a flag special? Flags wave high up in the air. We recognize the stars and stripes in red, white, and blue colors as the flag of the United States. Every country in the world has its own flag. At international sporting events like the World Cup and the Olympics, flags wave high. States have flags too. States use their flags to display different aspects of their history. The Colorado flag includes white to show its snow-capped mountains, blue for its blue skies, red for the soil, and golden yellow for the sun. People hang flags outside of their homes and march with them in parades. Flags represent something special. They show people's pride in something. In the United States, you find the flag waving everywhere on certain days of the year, like Memorial Day and the 4th of July. In the United States, you find the flag waving everywhere on certain days of the year, like Memorial Day and the 4th of July. But people fly the American flag on other days too. Schools, banks, and post offices display the flag every day that they are open. Most public institutions only show the flag from sunrise to sunset. A flag can only be flown at night if it is illuminated or lit up. The American flag also waves in most sports arenas and stadiums in the United States. At the start of many sporting events, the crowd faces the flag and sings the national anthem. The flag has been part of many important events for the United States. The flag can show our pride in our country. When astronauts landed on the moon for the first time in 1969, they planted an American flag on the moon's surface to represent our country in space. The American flag hasn't always looked the way it does today. When the United States was just starting out, there weren't 50 states. The first flag had 13 stars and 13 stripes because there were 13 colonies that would later become the first states. George Washington picked the colors for the first flag in 1776. The United States was fighting for its independence from England. Washington was the leader of our army. He knew America would soon be independent. He thought this new country should have its own flag. George Washington thought very carefully about the design for the new flag. He believed that our country should be good and fair to its people. He wanted the flag to show these ideas, so he picked certain colors to show those ideas. The white stands for goodness, and blue stands for justice. The red stands for bravery. Today, the country has 50 states, so the flag has 50 stars. But the 13 stripes have stayed the same. The purpose of the stripes is to remind us how much the country has grown since the original 13 colonies. The 50-star flag was introduced on July 4, 1960, after Hawaii officially became the 50th state. Our flag also has some fun nicknames. They include Old Glory, the Stars and Stripes, the Red, White, and Blue, and the Star-Spangled Banner. The largest American flag hangs from the George Washington Bridge between New York and New Jersey every year during important holidays. Each stripe is 5 feet wide, and the whole flag weighs 450 pounds. Every year on June 14th, the country celebrates Flag Day. On this special day, we honor the flag and the history of the United States. Many towns have parades. The streets are lined with people waving flags and wearing red, white, and blue colors to honor Old Glory.